Alex Jones joins us now. What's up, brother?
What's up? Happy holidays, everyone out there. It's hard to believe we're already a week away from Christmas, but happy holidays out there and great to be back with y'all.
What'd you ask Santa for this year, Alex?
Let's see. You know what? New car wouldn't be bad if Santa could bring that. That'd be nice.
Yeah. What kind of car?
Ferrari wouldn't be bad. Something along those lines. Okay. I'm sure the sleigh could bring that.
I pictured you as a Hampton County guy, either being a Silverado or a Ram, or if you're not a truck guy, a Trans Am.
Oh,
I could see Alex in a Trans Am, sporting a leather jacket, blasting out some Van Halen.
I'd like to see that, honestly. That'd be fun to see.
like Smokey and the Bandit. Are you our Smokey? Are we going to call you Smokey from here on out? Smokey Jones,
the Bandit.
Yeah, again.
Are we gonna call you Smokey Jones, or are you gonna be Bandit Jones?
He's more of a bandit. Yeah. Maybe when he's 50, 60, he could probably be Jackie Gleason, I think.
There you go.
But I like the Trans Am thing's pretty cool. I don't see them much anymore. Trans Ams.
Well, if you're going to be Bandit, I need to call Coach Fink then. So at the PCs, we got Bandit. Go ahead. Yeah, Coach. I was just wondering, are you going to throw to the tight end more this weekend, or?
Speaking of which, there's a call-in show tonight.
That's a great nickname for Alex.
Bandit
Hampton County Bandit.
Hampton County Bandit. That is a good.
I used to have a friend. I used to have a friend lived in Somerville. We called him the Low Country Ghost. So, Hampton County Bandit, Alex Jones.
Yeah, that's right. No longer the pride of Hampton County, the Hampton County Bandit. Joining us at 11:09. All right, Alex. We'll get to football. Let's get to hoops. So tonight it's a 7:00 tip at the CLA. 25th ranked Clemson rolls into town. Carolina's got a 4-game winning streak, and they're going to try to knock off the Tigers if they can. The Tigers have won 5 of 7 in the series, but Carolina has won the last 2 times that they have. The Gamecocks were victorious the last time the 2 programs squared off in the CLA. Remember, Chico Carter hit a game-winning jump shot with 0.9 seconds to go, and Carolina got out of there 60-58. Alex, look, man, I think it's kind of silly when people call games must win in basketball in December, so I'm not going to do that. This is the SEC, though, and every team in it is in contention. Every single team is in a conversation, a very early one, to dance in March, right? And so it feels like when they get to March and they get to the committee and they start making the selections, of course, all 16 programs won't get in, but it does feel like if you are in contention, you will very much be going up against your peers as opposed to the rest of the country. If you are one of those, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teams or something like that. And Carolina would probably be considered in that category at this point in time. So when they do that, they're going to obviously look at the league record, and South Carolina is going to most likely have 16 quad 1, quad 2 opportunities throughout the season. But then they will go back into that non-con. Forget North Florida. That ain't going to matter. A lot of people still think that's going to bite them. It's not. All right. But this one could. And they're going to need a quality non-conference win. Most of the programs in the league have gotten one, most of them. It would do South Carolina a lot of good, in addition to, just beating their rival. It would do them a lot of good to win this ball game as a resume booster in just a few months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at South Carolina's non-conference slate right now, and the wins, they have a few solid non-conference wins, but they don't have that marquee kind of win. Like, when you look back to last year, that Grand Canyon one, may not be a name, but that was a solid, quad 1, kind of varying quad 2 win just because of, that's a solid mid-major program. But this is an opportunity for South Carolina to get that win on the resume, just like you mentioned, most SEC teams do have right now. And it's crazy when you look at that SEC schedule right now. I was looking at it yesterday, and it's nothing but quad 1 and quad 2 games. And it's basically quad 1 games, all throughout the season, which is a good thing, from if you look at it from one way because of the opportunities that you have to boost your resume. But then it's going to be a fight every night in the SEC, and with this Clemson game, it's going to be a good kind of barometer, I think, for where this team stands going into the SEC slate. You got a few games before conference slate rolls around, but I think South Carolina's going to find out who they really are tonight in this one against Clemson.
Tigers are 1.5-point favorites, so Vegas is expecting this to be quite the battle at the CLA. Hopefully, the place will be full of Gamecock fans. If you can go, please go. Carolina's on a 4-game winning streak. That includes victories over a pair of the Tigers ACC friends, Virginia Tech and Boston College. That one was on the road as part of the ACC-SEC Challenge, and it was played in Chestnut Hill. Since then, East Carolina and Upstate have both come to town, and both have left with losses. So it's a 4-game winning streak coming into this ball game tonight. Alex, during those 4 games, what have your eyes seen that has allowed this team to maybe begin to figure some things out?
I think you're starting to see the team kind of figure out who they are a little bit. Last year they had the Bahamas trip to do that early on, and that was a big, chemistry piece for that team to be able to do that. I think you're starting to see a little bit of chemistry form with the team and kind of their identity. We know Colin Murray-Bowles is, potential lottery pick, and he's played like it for most of the year this year. And, I think you're starting to see, especially defensively, Lamont Paris kind of talked about this after the game the other day. I think you're starting to see them kind of play the way he wants them to play defensively. They still got a little ways to go there. They still got some things they need to improve on defensively, but you're starting to see a little bit of improvement defensively, and just need to continue to have more guys step up. Colin Murray-Bowles is obviously number 1 guy. You got Jacoby Wright and Jamari Thomas who are averaging double figures right now. Having guys like Miles Studi or Zach Davis step up and have a big night tonight could be big for this team, and it would go a long way for them for everybody to continue stepping up and find a way to win tonight.
Jamari Thomas has 33 points in his last 2 games. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, the one thing is the 3 ball is really starting to, connect for him. And that's something going into the season we were kind of wondering with this team as a whole, where's the 3-point shot going to come from? And, he's one who's kind of stepped it up here, from the 3-point line. And, I think he has back-to-back games where he's been pretty solid from back there. And, he's a guy when you watch him play, he can be a dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands. He can drive the rim. I think you want to still continue to see him improve at finishing around the rim. That's something that, I'm kind of looking for here these next few weeks. But he's a guy who, pretty good at finding guys open in the corners for threes and things like that. But he's really kind of stepped it up here. And I think that's just kind of him beginning to understand how Lamont Paris wants him to play. And, the more games he gets at that, the better he's going to get at that.
How about his ball handling, Alex? The first 3 games of the year, he turned it over 10 times. In the last 7 games, he has turned it over 10 times. So clearly that's been cleaned up.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes to, he may have been trying to do a little bit too much there in the early going. They were struggling to get some things going offensively, and he may have just been trying too hard to get that one pass in or just dribble a little bit too much. But I think kind of goes back to what I was saying. He's kind of figuring out how Lamont Paris wants him to play, being that under control type, still being a playmaker who can drive the rim, but being more under control. And I think he's starting to understand the vision that Lamont Paris wants for him as a point guard.
Tell us about this team defensively. You can't play for Lamont Paris if you can't play defense.
Yeah, that man is really that big man-to-man defense. That's kind of Lamont Paris' staple. And early in the season there were some struggles there defensively, and I think they it's just weren't playing up to his standards. Now you're starting to see that a little bit better. We know Jamari Thomas, going back to him, he's one he's kind of fun to watch play defensively because he can really be a ball hawk on the on-ball defender as an on-ball defender. So I think he's kind of the key to that, to get the defense started in the half court. And then, just in the paint, I think you're seeing a little bit more from Nick Pringle defensively, and that they need to continue to see that, just because you saw that at Alabama. He was, a really big rim protector for that team, and he has the athleticism to do that. And Colin Murray-Bowles, is a pretty good defender as well, and he continued to play well. So I think it all kind of starts defensively for this team. And when they're playing good defense, as we saw last year, when they're playing good defense, it really translates to good offense. And you're starting to see a little bit of that in this season so far. And they're going to need that tonight, absolutely, against this Clemson team who's been pretty good offensively, especially when you think about Chase Hunter and Ian Shefflin and those guys. I mean, it's a talented team that's come to Columbia tonight.
Before we roll it into that in the matchups, you mentioned Pringle. In the last 3 games, Boston College, ECU, and Upstate, he is 13 of 18 from the floor. He is 12 of 13 from the charity strike as well. What's been the mojo there? What are they doing to to get him high quality shots because he's hitting them.
You know, in that when we think back to the USC Upstate game, they had a little bit of a size advantage in that one, so they were kind of coming off the pick and roll and looking for some lobs, and they did that really well in that game. And I think with him, it's kind of the same thing with Jamari Thomas. Is he's playing kind of a different way than he was at Alabama. At Alabama, we all know how they play, kind of that just run and shoot up the threes, and he was kind of just like that rim protector guy, grab the boards, and for South Carolina, they're kind of asking him to do a little bit more offensively, kind of be a centerpiece for this offense along with Kyler Murray Bowles in the paint. And I think the same with Jamari, that he's kind of understanding now how he wants to play. And I think the next step for him is just be consistent at that. There's been times where he's been really, really good down the paint, and then there a few games where it doesn't work out for him. And I think one thing he also has to continue to do is staying out of foul trouble. He's had a few issues with that early this season, but that has improved a little bit here as the season's gone on. So that's the key for that team, is keeping those two paint guys out of foul trouble.
Clemson's good. They're 9-2. They're 1-0 in the league. They're coming off of a heartbreaker. They lost in overtime to Memphis, 87-82. You mentioned Chase Hunter. He's been there since JC was in school. He seems to stir the drink. What do we know about Chase Hunter? Who's going to guard him?
Yeah, that's going to be key to watch, because he's when you look at this team and what their goal defensively should be, it's got to be to limit Chase Hunter, because once he gets going, and if he gets going, they can be hard to stop with what he can do. He's averaging 2.4 assists per game too, which I think is either second or third on the team right now for Clemson. And so when he gets going, scoring the ball, that opens up some of the passing lanes with all the attention he gets. And as you mentioned, he has some of those other guys like Shefflin who, when those two are going, Clemson's a hard team to stop. So that's going to be the key matchup tonight, is those two and how South kind of guards them.
Sorry, we lost JB there.
I just
I was like, hold on. Yeah,
I was just looking at the net rankings. Alex, do you know what in the hell WAB is? WAB in the net rankings?
Oh gosh, I couldn't tell you.
Wins against something. B. Wins against basketball. Hell, it's a new category.
Who knows? There's so many different formulas and stuff that are used in this.
Right now, Carolina's last in the SEC in the net rankings. Last. So there's work to do, fellas.
Yeah.
And not to say it can't turn around, but this league looks ridiculous.
It's
now. Mike's right. It's like I don't know how they're going to compete, to be honest, because from what they've shown this year, they're not going to be competitive with any of these teams. And it has to start, I think, soon. I agree with JB. There's not a must win, but you can't have the lapses they've had. Rebounding, defense, just sloppy play, jacking up threes all the time when you're a 20% shooting team. They got to get back to they got to play. They got to understand who they are and play defense and hope they ugly it up and win this game. I think they may get blown off the court, if we're being honest, tonight. If they play like they've been playing, they just I don't know.
The key tonight is going to be the battle in the paint, because I think USC Upstate actually outscored South Carolina in the paint the other night, which was really surprising considering.
It's unbelievable. That was it.
Yeah, it should, and they've had issues rebounding. Defensive rebounding has been a problem throughout the season, and they've had some games where they've been better at it. But tonight's night where you got to be solid defensive rebound, because if you're not, if Clemson misses a three, Shefflin's going to come in there. His 12 rebounds per game are third in the country right now. He's going to come in there. He's going to grab and either put it back or kick it out for a three. So they've got to be solid in rebounding.
And any coach will tell you, and I'm sure it drives Lamont Paris crazy, is rebounding is about desire. It's about hustle. It's about playing tough. This is supposed to be one of the best front courts in the SEC. It's not. It's one of the worst, so far. So that, they got to get their act together. It's just not been good so far. Good enough. And I think it has to start tonight. A win tonight would go a long way towards, kind of getting them some momentum going into. We thought football was a meat grinder. I'm sitting there looking. I got down to Arkansas, and they're still in the top 50 of the net. Mike says there'll be 12 bids from the SEC this season. I don't think he's wrong.
I don't.
Lab is wins above bubble. So those
Oh,
are
my
Oh
God.
my! What in the hell is that?
Where did that
And
come
it
from?
wins
every
above
year.
the
Whatever. I'm
45th
not buying it.
ranked team in the net. A 45 ranked team is considered a bubble team. That's according to the Burt Bacharach,
No, he can
Burt
Burt Bacharach
Bacharach.
that into a back room somewhere. I'm so
We
tired of all
gotta
these
get Matt
dudes
Anderson.
Yeah.
When's the next
above
late night show,
bubble.
Alex? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow night.
Well, explain what WAB is. I know what WAP is,
I'm sure Matt knows.
but I don't know what WAB is. I thought it was like wet ass buttocks or something.
Yeah, I don't
know.
know.
Oh,
Do you need a
gosh.
bucket and a mop for that one?
All right. That's
anyway,
enough. It's the
sorry
holiday
about
season
that.
here.
But no, I was
listening.
like, they put a new statistical category in here, and I bet it sucks, and it does.
Yeah.
Hey, look, after what we went through with the football playoff committee, though,
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna be decidedly less critical of these Burt Bacharach and Ken Palm and the net and all that during basketball season. I promised myself that because I sat there and had a come to Jesus meeting with myself. I do that sometimes, and I was like, listen, whatever you think about this basketball season and those metrics, it's not nearly as bad as those 13 people sitting there eating popcorn and watching ball and making decisions. It could have been in the hands of that kind of group. So just thank your lucky stars. As flawed as it is, we have something in basketball, to take people's opinions out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Look, with all this discussion about everything we're talking about here, I still come back to the same thing I went back to last year as they were kind of evolving and becoming who they were. Alex, knock down shots. This team will win.
Mm-hmm.
And they were 5 of 19 or something like that against Upstate the other night from long range. Prior to that, they had back-to-back games plus 50% with the 3-ball. So, if they're going to take them, they just got to hit them.
Right. Yeah. And they had been better from 3-point shooting. I think Boston College are pretty solid. East Carolina, they had a pretty good day shooting to 3. And then
52% in both games.
Yeah, and then they just didn't have a great day from that against you with USCFC, but they didn't really need to have a good day from 3-point line to win that game, but they're going to have to tonight, and that kind of goes back to continue. I mean, Jamari Thomas has been better from 3. Miles Studi has, I think, maybe got off to a little bit of a slow start here. They're going to need him to continue to get better from that because he can be really good when he's hot from 3. And so I think that would help the percentage. And, they just got – that's going to be – and there's so many keys tonight for this game, but if South Carolina has another one of these nights like it had for USC Upstate where it's only making 5 threes out of 19 attempts, it could be a long night for him.
Well, I'll tell you this. Here's the difference between last year. This year,
you're right, by the way, too, about rebounding. Lamont's teams rebound. They
always do.
Basketball. Yeah, they need
this isn't a coaching thing. I never once said anything about Lamont. I'm afraid – as happens in college basketball these days, I think sometimes you get a group that just doesn't gel. It happened to Eric Musselman last year. It happened to Dennis Gates last year. It's happened in football. Some basketball is different because everybody's got transfers. I mean, and they have since even before we had the portal. But I mean, basketball rebounding is about desire, man. Taking good shots and running good offense is about thinking on the court. Last year's team did that and did it from the start. Like that Virginia Tech game, up in Charlotte was an example of that. This year it just looks very, very concerned. I'll just say concerning. And the things that are concerning, I mean, this team last year they got beat 100-61 at Auburn, right? They never quit in that game. They kept doing their thing. They had an off night shooting, an off night on defense, and Auburn was just throwing it in from the ocean, right? Still came back tough. Lost to them in the tournament. Still came back. I know they lost the Oregon game, but it wasn't a matter of effort and hustle and try and playing smart basketball. This year's team, I've seen them try to be a fast break team. I've seen them slow down and more on offense. I've seen them play defense sometimes. I've seen them leave guys wide open. I've seen them let guys drive right by them. I've seen it, and then the rebounding thing drives me insane. So, I've got some concerns, and I'm not the end all god of basketball here, but I do know that every coach will tell you rebounding is about desire. So I hope they hit the glass tonight. Go on, fellas, hit the glass because they're capable. I mean, you got Nick Pringle and Colin Murray Boyles in there. I mean, those guys could rebound, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what they're expected to do.
Right.
I think they're going to play well tonight. I feel a little bit differently about this, Alex. I think that they're going to play really well. I'll be honest with you. You want to know the most concerning thing to me is this morning? The crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the conversation every year when the game comes up. And I really would love to understand a little bit more. And maybe Alex, have you asked about this in the past? I'm not sure. I can't remember. But I just don't know why they can't get this game scheduled differently. Where the students, I mean, the graduation was yesterday.
Yeah.
Why can't get this thing where it's going to accommodate the best that these schools have to offer from an environment standpoint?
They did it last year, at Clemson. It was, early in the year, and I think it just it provides a great environment when students are there, and the students are, who knows what that turnout will be? Probably who knows what the student turnout would be because obviously they're out of school now. But it's something where I think they need to get it figured out. I think it just provides a great atmosphere and great, recognition nationally when you have an environment that you have when the students are in there. And that's something that, personally, I kind of wish they do is move it up because I know they got to work around some scheduled things, but it feels like it's just better for the rivalry in the game when, it's early in the year and you have a full house of students in there.
I agree, man. I think, is it Florida State that play their game the Friday night before the football game?
They do. Georgia Tech's earlier too. When they played it before the Clemson game, Lamont's first year, that was kind of out of necessity. I was fine with that. People can get behind it. I'd be fine with playing it the Friday before the football game on Black Friday. But this gets back to the fundamental problem with college basketball. And their scheduling. It starts way too damn early.
You're right.
And then December, where people can start getting into it, the schedule's a little light, and there are these dramatic 7 to 10 day periods where they're just off during exams. They're off for Christmas. They used to go play Christmas tournaments and stuff. And there's usually not a very good schedule. So if you're going to play all these games in November anyway, right? Why not play the rivalry game then? And I think it's a situation where basketball schedules are put together a little different. Football, it's like the athletic department and the coach, and they schedule it 5 years in advance and the contract sign and all that. Basketball's done year to year, and the coach primarily has the responsibility. So if you're Brad Burnell and you're Lamont Paris and you've got this one game you want to get in, and then you got this one game you want to get in, sometimes you're not on, you don't have identical open times, and you just got to kind of play it when you got to play it. So I'm not blaming them, but I do think it's better when the students are on. We had John Whittle on yesterday, Alex. He watched Clemson play Memphis at home Saturday at 11 a.m. There's nobody there.
Right.
I mean, I grew up in Greenville and Spartanburg, and when they're winning in basketball, everybody usually goes, but the students were gone, and they lost.
Right. So, right.
Yeah.
And in the chat box, Bruin asked about the bowl game tonight. Why? Because of basketball. North Carolina and Florida tip at 7:00 right before that West Virginia Memphis game that you're talking about. So, all right, let's turn to football. Alex, bowl prep is underway. What have you learned?
Yeah, as far as opt-outs and stuff, haven't heard anything officially from which I think is not too surprising. I think these guys have a serious momentum to try to go and find a way to get that 10th win. And you think about all the leaders, veterans on that team. I think that means a lot to this team. And so far, officially haven't heard one way or the other on a lot of these guys. And we'll see kind of how that continues to progress here as you get closer to the bowl game. But it sounds like the team has a lot of momentum to go and find a way to play really well and end the season on a good note and find a way to get that 7th straight win in the season. I think there's just a lot of momentum on that front within the team.
All right, I want to throw this in there. You mentioned the opt-outs. I certainly, in no way, shape, or form, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to watch or listen yesterday because I was with family doing the graduation thing. But so I don't know if y'all talked to John about Kyle Kennard's situation. I think John had initially reported that Kennard would not be playing. I think Hale kind of reported that decision has been made. Alex, I'm hearing that there's a pretty good chance he actually does play the game. And he never said he wasn't playing the game. What are you hearing about Kyle Kennard?
Yeah, I think it's we'll see. Still, I think there's still. I don't think it's been officially decided one way. At least officially, they haven't said one way or the other. But he's close to that sack record. So I wonder, if that's playing into this too. He wants to go out there and find a way to get that sack record. And again, I think it's not just one or two players who want to go and get this and the 10th win and 7th straight win. It seems like there's just a lot of in that locker room. They really want to find a way to end this thing strong and not go out there and play, kind of with like a skeleton crew on both sides of the ball. They want to go out there and end this thing the right way. And I think that kind of shows the leadership that team has and how they had the whole year. They want to go find a way to end this thing on a right note.
Yeah, there's more known players across the country playing. Jalen Milroe even said, probably better for the program if I didn't play, but I'm playing because I've earned it. I'm like, yeah, you go, dude. I think a lot of guys too. I mean, we sit there and think we live in this selfish world with players. Most of them, 98% of the good ones are team guys, team first guys. Mm-hmm. And the thing is like, I think a lot of them saw what happened to Florida State last year. There's an undefeated team. 20 mercenaries leave. The Hessians have gone. And then Georgia doesn't have hardly anybody opt out. And they beat them 63-3. I think some guys look at that because they're competitors and team guys and go, I don't want anyone that makes that happen to my team. I'll go play. I thought it was way overrated that the media was encouraging people to opt out when Fournette and McCaffrey did it. And I thought it was really sad and almost sick that, that kind of decision was encouraged, so to speak. But I think we're kind of getting on the other side of that now, especially guys are getting paid in college. The money's there, it's and some guys do need to opt out if they've had a history of injuries and stuff. I mentioned Debo, but I don't, I hope this continues because it's good for bowl games, right?
Yeah. I was going to say it's great for the game when, players, especially a guy, players who can be, high draft picks end up playing in the game, just like kind of they did in the olden days before the opt-out kind of history started to happen. But I think it's great for the game. It's great for bowl games, kind of because I think the bowl games have kind of had less significance since the playoffs started, which is unfortunate. I don't think it should be that way, but it is what it is. And I think it's just great for the game when a lot of these players, play in the game. And there obviously, like as JC mentioned, there are exceptions with guys who have had, injury history and you don't or potential high draft picks, but I think it's just great for the game when these guys when a whole team goes out there and finds a way to play in a bowl game.
But congratulations, by the way. I wasn't here yesterday, but congratulations to Nick Emanwari being named a first-team All-American by the AP. Kyle Kennard, second team, whatever. That's whatever. Yeah. But Nick Emanwari, there's a guy who I don't think I've seen receive one recognition thus far, Alex. And that's my guy, Mad Dog. You back off. He's been my guy for 2 years now. OD.
What's your guy?
Alex, we've watched a ton of football this year, man. SEC and beyond. The Travis Hunters of the world are out there. He's an outstanding player, Heisman winner. Congratulations to him. And there's some other good. There's not that many better corners than O'Donnell Fortune. I mean, they barely threw the ball to his side of the field this year. I mean, this kid's a dude.
I think he kind of had an under the radar, really, really good year this year for South Carolina. You saw flashes of it in previous years. You think back to the bowl game against Notre Dame. He had that pick six, the 100-yard pick six. And I think, the question was this year, does he step up or who steps up or he's going to step up in that number one role for Marcellus Dow? And, is he ready for that? And he absolutely showed that he was ready for that. He's played really well this year. Had a few pick sixes called back, had the one against A&M that was called back for the stepping out of bounds, and then the other one against LSU. But I mean, he's been really good this year, and teams haven't challenged him too much. And I think he's made some money this year with the way he's performed.
He has.
And look, man, the AP. I hate to say this because this is probably why Nick is on it. And then everybody saw the called back pick six against LSU. The AP, when they do corners and stuff, you have to have a couple of big picks and stuff like that. That's kind of how they base it, unless you're a Travis Hunter who's a freak. But I think he'd have probably gotten more, and really all SEC teams too. I mean, I think he'd have probably had those two been pick sixes. O'Donnell would have probably been second or third team all SEC and probably in the hunt for that because I'm with you guys. A good corner is not necessarily a guy that has 7 interceptions.
Right. Well, remember, same thing with Stephon, JC. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't have a bunch of picks. They just didn't throw the ball to him.
O'Donnell's got kind of a lean, taller, lanky build like a Stephon too. I'm certainly not saying he's going to be the 9th pick in the draft. I think he will get drafted, and he'll make somebody pretty happy. He's got a great name too. O'Donnell Fortune's a hell of a football name,
and OD's a great nickname. But you know what he did? He did as well as anybody this year, guys. We're talking about the picks and the flashy stuff. He tackled well. Can y'all name one play where it was like, oh, he just olayed that? One. I mean, he might have had a banger here or there where the guy slipped by for a couple of yards, but generally, if he was on you, you were going down.
That's one thing with this defense, too. We talked about what's made this defense where you think about defensive line and linebackers, but the corners have been very aggressive in run tackling and run defense. And I think that's something that when that happens and they can tackle on the perimeter, I mean, think what you mentioned, O'Donnell Fortune. For Kari Swain, when he came in there, I mean, he put his face in the fan and he ran right in there and he tackled. Like, he's going to be a guy who's going to be interesting to watch here, maybe in this bowl game and moving forward for the spot that he'll move into. But I mean, that the defense on the outside is corner. They've been awesome for the most part this year, and especially in the run defense. They really have no care. They'll come up there and they'll hit you.
Old Judge Collier got a couple of licks in too.
Yeah.
I mean, all three of those guys, and that was so refreshing to see because you don't always see it, right? Here for a while there, you'd have some good corners, but they weren't always the most physical bunch. So I like that because one of my favorite players to watch was Sheldon Brown, and Sheldon Brown, who's been on this show, would stick you. He would stick you
into next week. So Tony Watkins, that's my guy too, Phil. Back off. He was my guy in the early 90s. Back off.
That's fine.
Sorry.
I'll let you have those. I'll let you have those. But I think I'm on the Collier bandwagon for next year. I might call my shot here. I'm like, I'm all in on Collier. You can't have him, JB. He's mine.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Generally corners or secondary guys that come out of Rock Thrill, they kind of, it always works out.
Yeah, they do well up there.
Yeah. What else? What else have you learned about? Have you learned anything about bowl prep? As a matter of fact, did I miss something, or am I actually saying I don't think I've received anything as far as their schedule?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think they were doing like over the weekend doing some workout type stuff to kind of prep back up for bowl practice, and I don't think we 100% know the official first date.
Okay. All right. How about the portal, Alex? We'll get to a lot of this with JC in just a little while, and we only got about a minute or two left with you here. But overall, what they've been doing here early on in, I guess it's not early anymore, but you know what I mean. As portal season has opened and it's been chaotic as it usually is. How about your thoughts on where South Carolina stands and what they've done thus far?
Yeah, he got off to a good start on Saturday with Nick Sharp and Jalen Brown. I think Jalen Brown's an interesting one to watch. I think he saw the talent in high school, coming out a late riser type of guy, and went to Missouri and maybe was just behind a few guys on the roster, but sounded like he was really kind of coming along there. And I think that's going to end up being kind of an under the radar, really good get for South Carolina to start. And then you got Nick Sharp, who, the guard from Wake Forest, who could be a guy who can really come in and take over for one of those guard spots at Torricelli. I think maybe right guard spot would be the spot he could go into. But off to a good start there. Have some visits, lined up for this week. I know JC, dropped a visit list for Thursday with some pretty big names. And I mean, that's those three guys. That's a big time list name for those guys. And, Laura Sellers and the offense has really, I think the way the Laura Sellers played, and then just the success of the team has really stood out to some of these transfers. And it's the reason they're getting these guys on campus.
There's no doubt about that. All right, Alex, player tonight, player to watch. Who's the difference maker for Carolina basketball?
I will go with Jacoby Wright. It's a guy who's a senior,
Ooh.
Guy who's played a lot, played in this game. He mentioned yesterday when we were talking to him at the press conference how much he knows this game means to South Carolina, the state. And so I think he's a guy who could be one to watch.
I love that pick. Very well done. The bandit of Hampton County, Alex Jones. Jacoby Wright is averaging 10.6 points per game. He's coming off of a game in which he scored 10 points. Alex, we got to let you run on that note, but because Friday we will have a bowl show, right around bowl time, maybe day of or whatever it is. We haven't quite figured out the schedule. Friday will be our last day on the air other than that until January the 6th. You have been a tremendous part of our programming throughout the year. You've done a wonderful job reporting and informing and all those things with the Big Spur. I know JC is thrilled to have you on his team. Carolina fans are very lucky to have you reporting on Carolina athletics. Couldn't do it without you. And we hope that you and your family and the rest of you in Hampton County or wherever they may be have the merriest of Christmases and the happiest of New Year's. Thank you so much for what you do for us and for the Gamecocks.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the kind of words. That means a lot. And, happy holidays to each one of you guys on here and everybody watching that. I always appreciate being on with you guys.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
You're the man, dude.
You're the man. The Bandit of Hampton County. The Bandit of Hampton County.